The Catholic channel Sirius XM 129 presents Sounds from the Spires with Dr. Jennifer Pascual, Music Director of St. Patrick's Cathedral.
You're listening to Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel of Sirius XM 129. And today I have a very special guest, Jason Tramm, who's a wonderful musician. I've known him for a long time. We used to be in the same choir together years and years ago, but here we are during this pandemic doing this via Zoom. And so he's in his living room and I'm in mine, and we're all talking to you wherever you are listening. And so Jason Tramm, wonderful musician, director of music of many things, and just a great person. How are you, Jason?
I'm great, and thank you so much for having me on Sounds from the Spire. It's an honor and a privilege, and it's great to hear your voice again.
Yeah, you too. And gosh, we met a long time ago when you were singing in the Cathedral Basilica of the Sacred Heart in Newark, that choir, and I was the associate director of music and organist.
That was a few years ago.
Yeah, and you've done many great things since then, so good for you.
Well, it's been great to watch your career grow and to watch all the wonderful things you're doing on social media. It's always great to see wonderful people succeed.
Yeah, likewise. And gosh, and so we're here today. We're doing actually a radio and a podcast swap. Jason's on my show today, which will air this weekend, and then I'm going to be on Jason's tomorrow. So that's really exciting that we're both doing very similar things.
Well, that's one of the innovations of this period when we can't make a lot of live music, that we can have these open discussions and have artists and to talk about how we're making innovation in this time of separation and isolation.
That's right.
And planning our comeback.
Yeah, we'll talk about your career, of course, during the hour, but what have you been doing during this pandemic? You haven't been able to deal with choirs and whatnot. Have you done anything with smaller groups, or has everything been virtual?
Well, I've the first month when things hit, all my teaching moved virtually, and then all my choral societies, they took a couple weeks off trying to figure out what was going on. So then I jumped into the virtual fray. And my son he's a professional video editor, so he had that skill set. So we figured out the audio editing capabilities, and we started doing, we did 3 of the virtual choir performances with my 2 choral societies. And then that led to me at my summer residency at Ocean Grove, doing a whole season of these virtual choir performances where we have like 60 to 80 to 100 singers a week submitting their files that we edit into virtual choir anthems that are performed on our Sunday service, which is partially live, and now partially the choir is beamed in every week. So people who are all over the country, and we actually have people submitting virtual choir individual recordings from India and Australia. It's really opened up what's possible in the church, and it's been it's been a really interesting transition from live singing to something totally different, but keeping our community together at the same time.
That's great. Yeah, that it's open to the whole world. But goodness, it's a lot more work, is it not? Well,
we spend about 15 hours together editing in the middle of the night, and things like cutoffs and things like the tempi are slightly off. The editing process takes so much time, and it's things that were so easy when you're conducting. When you say, here's the cutoff, here's the release, it's all the post, which makes life challenging, to say the least.
Do you miss the actual conducting of live choirs?
I'm used to 8 rehearsals a week during the season, and then the summer at Ocean Grove, we have 2 standing rehearsals, services, choir festivals, oratorios. So it's very different, and it's very much quieter, which is very unusual. I'm used to being around a lot of people, and I miss people desperately. It's really, it's turned into like Zoom meetings every day, followed by Zoom rehearsals in the evening, followed by editing on Zoom. And then I miss the live interaction between musicians and colleagues.
Yeah. Jason Tramm is our guest today here on Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic channel, Sirius XM 129. He's a conductor, a music director, an artistic consultant. Right now he'd be at Ocean Grove. Well, you are in Ocean Grove, but you would be doing big concerts with choir and organ and orchestra. And you are also the director of choral activities at Seton Hall University and the music director of Mid-Atlantic Artistic Productions. So many things, and your whole life is so full of that music making and joy, and now we're all having to compress and do everything within the privacy of our homes, and I know that's challenging. But tell us what you would do on a normal summertime right now. What would you be doing in Ocean Grove? For those who may
Ocean Grove, we would have just had our annual choir festival, which is always a wonderful event. This year is our 66th annual choir festival. And we bring in about 8 guest conductors every year, and about 700 to 1,000 singers join in and they come from all over. We have rehearsals bi-weekly starting in the second week of June, and it starts with like 75 people, and it builds up to 300 and 400. And as we get closer, people in their home churches are practicing the pieces for the festival. They come together on the day of, and we have a large brass ensemble, and we have a very large pipe organ, as you're very familiar with, working with large pipe organs. And we do this festival, and we've had wonderful artists throughout the years. This is the 66th year, but Ocean Grove goes back to 1869, and we've always had a strong community choral program, and it's exciting, thrilling to hear the hymns sung with 5,000 people, and it's just a celebration. I meet so many musicians from so many places. Music directors love to come sing at this, bring their choirs. It's such a wonderful community music making opportunity, and it's been such a highlight of one of my. I look forward all year to this performance. This year will be a completely virtual choir festival, and we're going to do it on August 30th. And we're only going to have 5 choir anthems. But as far as I know, and I've been asking all my choral colleagues, no one's ever done something with five different anthems at once in such a short amount of time and with such a short amount of staff, which is me and my son. Yeah. So it's going to be exciting, and I think we're looking forward to having at least 200 singers participate, and we're spreading the word to anyone can be a part of it. It's that's what's the joy of, is anyone can just pop in there and sing and make music to the Lord, and it's exciting. This week I would have been doing a large organ and orchestra concert. I think we were doing the Guillemot Symphony No. 2 this year, which is unusual. I've never done that one, but it's always a thrill to have a 70-piece orchestra in a nice big hall with a nice live pipe organ. We would have had rehearsal on Wednesday, but instead we will have to do that next year.
Yeah, and if people are interested, Jason, how can they watch this August 30 concert?
Well, our website is www.oceangrove.org, and there'll be information on there. Mm-hmm. You can also go on my YouTube channel. There'll be information on my website, jasontram.net, and on Facebook as well. And they'll be announcing that the festival, and we have 5 guest conductors this year and myself, and it'll be a truncated version with one premiere, but still exciting and different for everyone. It's been a lot of fun teaching my community how to use the technology to record themselves with guide tracks and then submit the materials via WeTransfer. Every step of the way is fraught with technical difficulties. So my son's been on technical call to help people through the process. But at this point in the season, we were done 7 or 8 anthems, so people are pretty comfortable and they're submitting every week, and it's been quite an interesting ride.
Well, it's great that you have a son like that who's so willing to help and everything.
If you want to learn technology, have a millennial around. They've grown up with it, and they're usually very good with the technology.
I may be calling him up. Yeah, and Jason is also our guest today, Jason Tramm. Go to his website, by the way. It's jasontram.net, and that's Tram with 2 M's, Tramm. You're also associated with the Mid-Atlantic Philharmonic Orchestra. Tell us about that, for those who don't know about that orchestra.
I founded that group about 5 years ago, and I had worked for the New Jersey State Opera, and that company had gone out of business. And I had a lot of performance opportunities. People were asking me to perform, and they would like me to perform with my orchestra. So I founded my own orchestra, and I've gotten to perform in many different places. And I do a lot of people come to me and say, we'd like you to conduct and bring your orchestra. So I have this pool of players I've been working with, and it's flexible. It can go from 20 players at a chamber concert to 70 to 80, depends on the concert. We do pops music concerts sometimes, so we're upwards of 80 players. But it just depends on our seasons vary. I do a lot of pops programming and then mix it off with some, we've done things at Merkin Hall. I performed at Carnegie Hall in 2015, NJPAC in 2017. So we do a lot of different types of performances. You'll see on the videos Beethoven Ninth Symphony. That was my Prayer for Peace concert, and things like we did a Mozart concert at Merkin. And I also really enjoy the variety of repertoire. I'm a musician who thrives on diversity. I love doing church music. I love doing orchestra music, and I have a real heart for opera as well. Yeah. So it's like a well-balanced diet for me. I get to do lots of different things, and it keeps me really interested. And I'm always love to learn new pieces and explore new avenues of communications. And the great thing about music is we never get bored.
That's right. Exactly. And now let's take a little listen to the Carmen Overture. And this is Jason directing the Mid-Atlantic Philharmonic Orchestra in Merkin Hall. And that was the Carmen Overture, conducted by our guest today, Jason Tramm, directing the Mid-Atlantic Philharmonic Orchestra in Merkin Hall. Your last concert before the COVID pandemic, you said?
That was the very last performance. I had lots of concerts after, that all canceled and postponed. But that one was really special because who would have known at the time that there was it was called Opera Gems, and that was the overture to an evening of opera arias from the dramatic and verismo repertoire, which was really a lot of fun in a small, intimate space like Merkin Hall. But that set the tone for a performance, and it's always exciting to conduct Carmen. I just love conducting that opera.
Yeah, it's great work. And you and I recalling this, you and I met because of the Cathedral Basilica of the Sacred Heart, and you were a singer at the time. Were you in the choir when we did the Verdi Requiem, or had you already left?
I was not. I think that was right after.
Oh.
But the Verdi Requiem has always held a very special place in my heart. I think I've conducted it 5 times now. And every time it's like looking at a great painting. You see the different angles and the shadings and the colors. And I've spent a lot of my career doing Verdi. Mm-hmm. I've done most of the operas, at least the famous ones now. And every time I come back to either Aida or the Requiem, that they were written about the same time. There's so many devices he uses in both of them. So it's just incredible, powerful. They call it Verdi's greatest opera, and I tend to believe that as well. That this is such a theatrical approach to the Requiem Mass.
Yeah, well, it's a great work. It's one of my favorite works of his as well. So we'll take a little listen now to the Rex Tremende movement of the Verdi Requiem, and this is the New Jersey State Opera, conducted by Jason Tramm. And you just listened to Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring, and that was from the Ocean Grove Virtual Choir Project. And right before the break, we listened to the Verdi Requiem's Rex Tremendae movement, the New Jersey State Opera, conducted by Jason Tramm. And tell us a little bit about both of those, Jason. Maybe first the New Jersey State Opera. Tell us about your experience with them and how you're associated.
Oh, I learned so much. That was one of my first real chances to grow as an artist was the Cathedral. I certainly learned so much from John Miller when we wrote there, a wonderful artist and a great person. And I really learned so much under his leadership. When I got to the New Jersey State Opera, I was the chorus master, and I was a doctoral student at Rutgers University. And being around international opera singers was such an eye-opening experience for me, because Maestro Silipini, he was on the older side of his career, and he didn't want to conduct the rehearsals. And he really liked me, so he'd say, Jason, conduct the rehearsals. So I was in front of Lando Bartolini, one of the great Verdi tenors, and some of these wonderful artists. Every day I was up there conducting. I got the chance to really conduct the recits, go through all the transitions, and had Maestro sitting right next to me. He'd be like, piccolo gestura, Jason, smaller gestures, try this. And having a real Barismo master next to me was then we'd have lunch and we would talk about singers and style, and he'd worked with everybody. So I was steeped in the Italian tradition. And it was incredibly fertile ground for me. And Silipini, when I finished my doctorate, encouraged me to go into opera and to stay in the New York tri-state area. And I'm so glad I did, because I was offered university jobs in Georgia and in rural Wisconsin. And I decided to stay here and to pursue my opera. And I'm so glad I did, because I met such wonderful artists doing that. And even to this day, I do lots of collaborations with the opera artists, and I just love dramatic music for the voice. And the Rex Tremendae, there's nothing more dramatic than the way that the chorus and the soloists intertwine as they tell this story of the wrathful, angry God. And finally, it ends with this beautiful prayer.
Yeah. It's a great work. The whole thing, it's a 90-minute work, but it's all worth listening to. And if you ever can get to a performance in person, go for it. It's great work. Verdi Requiem. And then after the break, we listened to Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring, of course, by J.S. Bach. Was this your first virtual choir project?
It was my first virtual choir at Ocean Grove.
Ocean Grove.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with the virtual choir process, I wasn't until this year. I saw Eric Whitaker's version of it, but I'd never, I just thought this was a novelty. Move on back to the rehearsals. But when the COVID virus forced us all to be away from our choral communities, I started taking a second look and said, hey, here's a way for my singers to practice via Zoom and then to come together and actually use what we've learned. So this was Ocean Grove's first virtual choir. We had singers submit from India and from Australia and from California and from Florida, and people who couldn't come together geographically were looking for the outlet to make music. So everyone, I prepared the guide track. Gordon Turk recorded the organ part in his church in Pennsylvania. And through the magic of technology, we performed a piece. And it's exciting to watch these pieces go out there. And I wish we were in the same room making music together, me and those singers. But for this time, it was innovation for the time of COVID.
Yeah. And we were talking about putting it all together earlier. Is this something that would take about 15 hours to put together?
I wish it was 15 minutes. It certainly doesn't feel like it. No, each one, especially when you start these projects, I've had multiple people, experts in the field who do this, come together and they say the first time you do it, have patience with yourselves. And that's true, because it's a time-consuming process. If you think it's going to be easy, it takes a lot of technical know-how with the recording part, with the audio, and then you have to extract the audio from the video and then do the video separately and then put them back together again. So there's multiple steps. But in the end, what I see from my singers is that they're so excited to be part of something.
Right.
Because right now we're all separated, but we can all come together as a church family, and that's very special to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't delved into that world yet, but I think I'm going to have to, maybe. We'll see what happens if I have the patience like you say I should have. And another one of these great chestnuts for church is When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, which is a great one for Lent. This one is arranged by Gilbert Martin, and this is from your 64th annual Ocean Grove Choir Festival in 2018. So we'll take a listen to that now. and that was the hymn When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, arranged by Gilbert Martin, and that was live at the 64th Annual Ocean Grove Choir Festival in 2018. Jason Tramm, our guest today on Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic Channel, Sirius XM 129, is our guest and the conductor of that piece. When you have a choir festival like that, how many singers do you say you have, Jason?
That particular one, there was about 800 singers in the
Wow.
choir that day. So it's hard to get the sense they're so far apart that we stand in the middle and there's two levels of sopranos and two levels of alto, and the men cover the stage, tenors and the basses cover the stage. And this is my 14th year at Ocean Grove. And when I got the job, I didn't really know much about the tradition. I walked into the job interview and I was talking to them. They said, we usually have 1,000 singers in the choir. I'm like, we have a large choir. I'm like, 100 singers, right? They said, no, 1,000. I'm trying to think about that. And it's such a thrill and a rush to work with people who are so excited. I'm blessed to work with both professional musicians and avocational musicians quite often in my career. And the avocational musicians bring such passion and fire to their singing.
They do.
And that love of coming together to sing sacred music is just such a wonderful experience. And I just love the community around the choir festival. There's multi-generations who come. People's parents and grandparents sang, and they come as well. And I just love that nature of that anyone could come and make music, a joyful noise. And at the ending, when we all come together, there's nothing as thrilling as to hear everyone raising their voices together.
And that's a summertime festival?
Yeah, Ocean Grove runs from June until the second week of September. So this is the 151st season.
Wow. And I guess because people flock to the beaches this time of year, is that where you mainly draw your crowds from, the people who flock to the shores?
People have been coming here since they founded in 1869. The story is that a bunch of Methodists were looking for a camp meeting location, so they went to Cape May because it's very nice down there.
Yeah.
And they got eaten alive by mosquitoes because they were camping in tents. So they said, we're not going to come here. So they came to Ocean Grove and they went to Founders Park, where I'm broadcasting from today. My cabin where I live is on Founders Park. And there were no mosquitoes, so like, this is the place. So they founded a camp meeting and they built the great auditorium in 1894, which holds about 10,000 people at the time. Now it holds 6,500. And they've been doing these type of religious retreats, and music's been a core of that ever since the 1800s. Caruso sang here, lots of famous operas, the recitals here, Virgil Fox played here, all sorts of different entertainment acts have come through here. So it's really special. It's a unique community. We'll have to I'd love to have you conduct on Choir Festival next year.
Oh, yeah, one of these years when it's safe and when it's finally safe to get
when
out.
people are singing again, yes.
Exactly. And do the singers come from New Jersey or from all over the country? Or
all over the place, the place. Lots from New York, lots from New Jersey, lots from Pennsylvania, and then a smattering from who knows where. They some register beforehand, but other people just buy the packets and just come.
Yeah.
So we do a registration of the day of, and my volunteers will run it like a clock. They've been running it since before I was born, some of them. They have a really good system worked out where they come in, they get their ribbons during the rehearsal. We do a rehearsal for 3 hours during the day with the brass instruments, and then we put it all together, and it can be very warm sometimes. There's no air conditioning in the great auditorium, but usually there's a nice ocean breeze coming through the half open air doors.
That sounds nice. Hopefully next year that'll be the case again, where we can be live and all together. And I still haven't made it there. One of these years I'm going to go there and experience it. So it sounds like
we have a Hope Jones organ that dates back. The centennial of the organ. We did a program on pipe dreams. I think we did the Poulenc Organ Concerto for pipe dreams that year. But it's a wonderful. It's almost 13. I think it's over 13,000 pipes now. But there's all sorts of. You'd enjoy the technical specifications and the first diaphone, 32-foot diaphone, was in this organ. It was invented for this organ, and I think the story was that the metallurgy wasn't finished yet and exploded when they tried to use it because the vibrations just.
Yeah.
But they refined it over time, figured out the metallurgy, and it shakes the building here now.
That's a great story. We're going to listen to one of those pieces from Ocean Grove in a few minutes when we come back on Sounds from the Spires. But we're speaking with Jason Tramm today, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes to continue listening to the music that he's made and more about his career. You're listening to Sounds from the Spires on the Catholic Channel, Sirius XM 129. and that was the Saint-Saëns' Third Symphony, final movement, and Gordon Turk was the organist on that. And Jason Tramm, our guest today on the Catholic channel of Sirius XM 129, was the conductor of the Mid-Atlantic Philharmonic Orchestra, live from Ocean Grove. And tell us, Jason, you mentioned that you put this orchestra, you started from the beginning, you founded it from the ground up. How do you start an orchestra like that?
Well, I've been, during the times of the economic uncertainty, when I was at New Jersey Stepper, I had a choral contractor, an orchestra contractor, people who did that job. I was the music director. But as times got harder, the jobs contracted, the budgets contracted, and I learned how to do that as well. So I said, okay, may as well, keep the doors open. I'm going to do this as well. Let's add that to my job. Eventually, I found I really liked that because it was like a chef having control over your ingredients.
That's right.
I know the players I look for a unique string sound. I know which ones I like. And it gave me the chance to have complete control over my artistic product. And that became noticed because people who came to those concerts started saying, would you do an orchestra for me? Would you conduct mine? And, I was able to conduct and bring the orchestra. It gave me an advantage. And now I do that quite a lot for a lot of organizations. I call myself an artistic consultant. I conduct, I contract, I do a lot of different things in music. And I really enjoy the fact that I get to work with so many great artists, both orchestral and solo. And it's been a real joy because when I got asked to do the Saint-Saëns Third Symphony and then to get to pick the dream team of players I get to work with is even more exciting.
Yeah.
When I wanted this particular timpani player, this concert master, I know what the solos are, so I can say, I think this will be the right fit for this type of piece. And it gives me great flexibility and latitude.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Sounds like a lot of fun. And you're also, on top of everything else you do, you're the choral director at Seton Hall University. Tell us about that and how big is the choir, or do you have several choirs?
I do, yes. I do the university choir. It's about 70 members. I do the chamber choir. It's about 25 singers, 25 to 30 singers, depending on the semester. And I also do the university orchestra. I teach conducting. I advise music education students. When I met you, I was a high school teacher at Summit High School for 6 years before I did my doctorate. So I tell my students, if there's a job in music, I've probably done it. And to be flexible and to teach them that if you want a life in music, it pays to do a lot of things and to have a very broad skill set.
Right.
Keep on refining your skills in your principal instrument, but reach out there and find what else you can do because it's a very long career and you've got to, find things like this podcast, for example, that you do so well. I mean, find ways to be involved in your music and to engage in different avenues. So my teaching is a central part of my life. When I was an opera conductor, I did not teach. I missed that. So going back to teaching, when I came to Seton Hall, I got to combine everything I love. I do orchestra and chorus. I've had some wonderful performances with my students, and I bring the best of the artists I work with on the outside to Seton Hall. And often my students will be involved in very large productions that I do with my companies, either separately or we do hybrids where I bring them together. But that flexibility has been really celebrated at Seton Hall, and we've done all sorts of interesting programs, and I'm very proud of my students.
Yeah, good for you. Wow. So you're also bringing up the musicians of tomorrow.
And the energy is so great. When you teach, you never get old because you're just surrounded by great energy. And I feed off that energy. And what I love to do is take my students backstage when I do an opera, or when I did a gala concert with Christine Ebersole, and she's a legend of mine, a two-time Tony-winning actress and just a real dynamo of a performer. And my students got to come backstage and meet her. And it's just that type of engagement. You may study music and you may study the art form, but to meet the people who are at the top of the form and to just interact with them after performance is special. And I think it encourages people to even work harder.
Yeah. And great advice you just gave also about people who are getting into the music business, that they should expand their skill set. It's true. You can't just hone in on one thing because then you're just kind of closed off to everything else that are possibilities. So that's great advice also for people who are going to school and getting into the music world. Yeah. Let's listen now to Rimsky-Korsakov. This is the third movement and a live performance from 2019. Is this also at Ocean Grove, Jason?
This was part of the Summer Stars concert series, and a really special performance. And the orchestra it was really a special group of players. So many of my absolute best players weren't away at festivals or weren't on tour that year. So I had the cream of the crop of the string players and some really special wind and brass players. And whenever you do a piece like Scheherazade, which is a solo for everyone in the orchestra, they're so happy because they all get to be soloists.
So let's take a listen now to Rimsky-Korsakov. And that was the Rimsky-Korsakov live performance, Movement 3, Scheherazade. And Jason Tramm was the conductor of that live concert at Ocean Grove. And it's been great talking to Jason about his career. I just remember meeting him first as a chorister, and now he's done so many fabulous things. He travels the world. Did you have any travel plans for the summer, taking an orchestra or whatnot abroad?
I had a few. This is supposed to be, I applied for tenure at Seton Hall in the fall, so I put a lot of very important concerts this year, and I built them over a couple of years, so this would be leading. I had a festival in Italy. I was supposed to conduct Suor Angelica at a festival in Narini, the Narinia Festival, which was, of course, canceled. That was supposed to be at the end of July. I was booked to make my debut in Prague at the Kulturradio House with the Savaria Symphony Orchestra of Hungary, and I was booked to make my debut in Vienna at the and then in Prague at the big theater in Prague with the North Czech Philharmonic doing a wonderful program of Dvorak, New World Symphony, and other pieces. So I lost those debuts, and I lost a tour with my university choir from Seton Hall of Scotland and England.
Oh.
But, it's there was no way we're going to travel these days. So
yeah.
It forced innovation in other ways. So starting the podcast and doing the virtual choir recordings and then planning the teaching for next year has been most of my summer.
Yeah. Here's a hard question for you, Jason, and I know you're still very young because I'm looking at your picture now. You seem to not have a gray hair on your head. What so far has been the most exciting experience of your musical career so far? Or maybe there are a couple of them.
I do so many different things that it depends on, I'm a type of person who always looks, I love to be surrounded by music. I love to be surrounded. So all year I plan things. When I don't have a concert, I plan something else. If I'm not doing an opera production, I'm in production at Seton Hall. If I'm not in Seton Hall, I'm getting ready for Ocean Grove. If I'm not in Ocean Grove, I work with the touring opera company. So I keep lots of affiliations. So I kind of pack my schedule with totally different things, choral societies, orchestral. It's like a well-balanced diet. I love to have lots of great repertoire in front of me. Nothing makes me happier than at 2 a.m. when I look at my work desk and I have a stack of scores I've got to learn for next month.
Wow.
I've got Beethoven symphony. I've done all my Beethoven symphonies. I've got a new model. I've got charts there that I haven't learned yet. I've got a choir festival to plan. I just love having a variety of work. Musicians, collaborations with people, wonderful artists are always such a joy. So it's my Carnegie Hall debut in 2015 when I did my Prayer for Peace concert. I did the work of a Christian composer in Ralph Vaughan Williams, the Don Nobis Pacem, Bernstein, a Jewish composer, and I did his Chichester Psalms. And I found a work by Adnan Saygun, who's a Muslim composer. And it was the work all with the universal theme of peace. And I love big projects that are exciting, that had a large orchestra. I had Kevin Short from the Metropolitan Opera and friends and colleagues. And putting these large concerts together with a social mission is very important to me. So that was special. My debut conducting Porgy and Bess with the New Jersey State Opera is I'll never forget. I had the Dream Team cast, the Opera News called it. We had 5 Met artists on the stage, and that was something very special to me. I worked with the absolute wonderful artists, and that'll always be special. My European debut was very special when I conducted Porgy and Bess at the National Opera House in Tirana, Albania. That was the debut of that opera in that country. Oh. And I became an ambassador of American art. I didn't even realize that until I got there. But they had never, a lot of them didn't know the music, or they knew Summertime, but they didn't know the opera. And we had to explain through translators, because no one spoke English, we had to explain American racism to an audience that didn't know that. Wow. So that was really special. We really bonded with the orchestra, and I bonded. I was there for a month. So it's there's so many different, if you asked me like 20 years ago, I would have said conducting on the Candlelight Carol Sing in Newark. Getting to conduct, John gave me the opportunity to conduct a piece then. That was a life-changing experience for me, something I'll never forget. So I keep on looking for things that are totally different, totally unique. Now it's watching a really good virtual choir recording that we put together for 15 hours and seeing the joy in the people who sang for it, as they have no idea what it sounds like until you put it together. And
right.
Yeah, I love music. So anytime I'm engaged in music, it's a good day for me.
Jason, what is the secret behind your energy, and how do you balance that all out with family?
Well, like you, I've got children. I have 4 children. I've been working with my oldest son through all the technology. He's a tech whiz, and I am a dinosaur. So technology is not my friend. But my son is very good. Quentin is very good at that. And he's a communications major at Seton Hall. He's finishing up this year, I believe. I have twin girls who are 17, who are just a delight. And I get to, we always spend our time at Ocean Grove in the summer. So we're all here in this beautiful little cabin right by the beach and by the auditorium. And we love to come together and barbecue in the backyard. And we've spent more time this year than I have in the last 5 years combined.
Yeah.
Because we've been home and there's been nowhere to go and no commuting, no rehearsal. It's been very strange. Commuting means going to my living room, opening the computer, getting on a Zoom call and getting back again. So
right.
the family time has really been wonderful, and making time, special time, very important. And throughout my career, you know, the ups and the downs of being an artist, having the family has always been a source of great comfort and great joy for me.
Oh, great advice too. Thank you, Jason. We've had Jason Tramm as our guest today. He's a wonderful musician. Go check him out at his website, jasontramm.net, and that's Tramm with 2 M's, TRAMM.net. And you can find out about a virtual concert that's happening on August 30th, and you can see some pictures and videos and find out how to contact him if you are interested in engaging him and his orchestra or choir when things are safe and things are starting to open up. But in the meantime, go to his website and check it out. There's a lot more information there that I wish we had more time to discuss today. Great career that Jason has, and he's got a long time to go. He's still so young, and congratulations for all the great work that you do and all the musicians that you're bringing up at Seton Hall, and just the joy and excitement that you bring to people through all your musical efforts. What you do is amazing.
Thank you, Jenny, so much, and continued success to you, and thank you to the Catholic Radio family.
Oh, thank you, Jason. And we will finish out today by listening to a little bit of Beethoven 9th Symphony. And this is a live performance from the Prayer for Peace concert, the Mid-Atlantic Philharmonic Orchestra and the Seton Hall University Chorus. Again, conducted by Jason Tramm, jasontramm.net, TRAMM. Check him out. And we'll see you here next week on the Catholic channel of Sirius XM 129. Thank you to Jason. Thank you to Robert. And we'll see you next week.